Hello, friends. Welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot, and today we will be continuing to read from this very important book, our Authorized Bible Vindicated. And this was written, of course, by Benjamin G. Wilkinson. I meant to do this before, and I just remembered. I haven't mentioned this before, but about the writer, Benjamin G. Wilkinson, of course, he is deceased a long time ago, back in, I think, late 1950s or early 1960s is whenever he passed away. But he was a PhD, worked at the Dean of Theology for Washington Missionary College, now known as Columbia Union College today. During his long years of service to the cause he loved, he also dedicated his life in ministry and study. This work is the culmination of study for many urgent requests he received on this pertinent subject. So he's not some simpleton, some ignoramus, okay? This man knew his stuff. So, and I have great respect for him and his writings. So today our study is entitled, Which Bible Did the Early Christians Use? Did they use the Bible that was handed down to them by the apostles, or did they use the Bible published by Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, which that Bible eventually became it is the ancestor of the Bibles which the Catholics use today, and other people, of course, use. So let's begin this part of the book. Attentive observers have repeatedly been astonished at the unusual phenomenon exhibited in the meteoric history of the Bible adopted by Constantine. So you can picture Constantine's Bible like a meteor. You see it in the sky, it's lit up, and then quickly it just fades away. Written in the Greek, it was disseminated at a time when Bibles were scarce, owing to the unbridled fury of the pagan Emperor Diocletian. We should naturally think that it would therefore continue long. That is, the Constantine's Bible, the ancestor of the Catholic Bibles. Such was not the case. It did not continue long. The echo of Diocletian's warfare against the Christians had hardly subsided when Constantine assumed the imperial purple. Even so far as Great Britain had the rage of Diocletian penetrated. One would naturally suppose that the Bible, which had received the promotion of Constantine, especially when disseminated by that emperor who was the first to show favor to the religion of Jesus, would rapidly have spread everywhere in those days when imperial favor meant everything. The truth is, the opposite was the outcome. It flourished for a short space. The span of one generation sufficed to see it disappear from popular use as if it had been struck by some invisible and withering blast. I would say that invisible and withering blast was the hand of God. We turn with amazement to discover the reason for this phenomenon. This chapter will show that the Textus Receptus. Now, one thing I have not made, I realized in I realized that I have not made myself clear enough in mentioning that whenever I say the received text or the King James Bible, this is essentially the same as the Textus Receptus, okay? The Textus Receptus is the Latin name for the received text, okay? And those two names, they are speaking about the Bible which the apostles handed down to us. And when you hear or read the name or the phrase Textus Receptus or received text, understand that those Bibles are the ancestors of the King James Bible. Okay? So this chapter will show that the Textus Receptus was the Bible in possession and use in the Greek Empire, in the countries of Syrian Christianity, in northern Italy, in southern France, and in the British Isles in the 2nd century. This was a full century or more before the Vaticanus and the Sinaiticus saw the light of day. And just understand, in case you don't know this, I know some of you probably do understand this, but the Vaticanus and the Sinaiticus, they are words that are pointing towards the Bible which Constantine had published. When the apostles of the Roman Catholic Church entered these countries in later centuries, they found the people using the Textus Receptus, and it was not without difficulty and a struggle that they were able to displace it and to substitute their Latin Vulgate. The Latin Vulgate, that's another name for the Catholic Bible. Okay, so the people were using the Textus Receptus, which is the Bible that they received from the apostles. And like he says, it was not without difficulty that the Catholics were able to take that Bible away from them and substitute in its place their Catholic Bible in the form of the Latin Vulgate. This chapter will likewise show that the Textus Receptus belongs to the type of these early apostolic manuscripts that were brought from Judea, and its claim to priority over the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus will be established. Early Greek Christianity, which Bible? First of all, the Textus Receptus was the Bible of early Eastern Christianity. Let me repeat. The Textus Receptus, which is the ancestor of the King James Bible, was the Bible of early Eastern Christianity. Later, it was adopted as the official text of the Greek Catholic Church. The Greek Catholic Church. And even today, there is a difference between the Greek churches, which I think they call them maybe the Orthodox Church, not sure, and the Roman Catholic Church. There were local reasons which contributed to this result, but probably far greater reasons will be found in the fact that the received text had authority enough to become, either in itself or by its translation, the Bible of the great Syrian Church, of the Waldensian Church of northern Italy, of the Gaelic Church in southern France, and of the Celtic Church in Scotland and Ireland, as well as the official Bible of the Greek Catholic Church. All these churches, some earlier, some later, were in opposition to the Church of Rome. Now pay close attention to the next few sentences. All these churches, some earlier, some later, were in opposition to the Church of Rome. And at a time when the received text and these Bibles of the Constantine type were rivals. Okay? When these churches were in opposition to the Church of Rome, the Bibles which they used, these churches, the Greek Catholic Church, the Celtic Church, the ones I've just named, the Waldensian Church, okay? Their Bibles were types which they were rivals to the Bibles used by the one published by Constantine. Okay? They had different Bibles. Suffice it to say, they had different Bibles. These early Christian churches, they used the Bible that came from the apostles, translated into their language. And the others used the Bible which Constantine had published, which had all kinds of paganism in it. they, as represented in their descendants, are rivals to this day. And I know from the comments placed on these videos, there are people that deny that. People act as if there's only one line of Bibles, one stream of Bibles. That is completely false. Completely false. And the history testifies to that. And they are rivals to this day. The false Bible and the true Bibles, they are rivals to this day. The King James Bible is more than 500 years old now. I'm sorry, more than 400 years old, I should say. Okay. But it turned, the 1611, okay, it turned 400 years old in what? In 2011. In 2011, right, that makes 400 years, right, Debbie? Yeah, 400 years, okay? The Church of Rome built on the Eusebio Origen type of Bible, and we discussed that. If you haven't watched the previous video, which was entitled, go back to it, I have the title here, the Catholic Bible published by Constantine. If you haven't watched that video, you need to go back and watch that one also to get the full picture, because some of these things I'm reading in this chapter may be a bit confusing to you if you are joining us for the first time. All right, so, and when it says here, the Church of Rome built on the Eusebio Origen type of Bible, that is the Bible published by Constantine, and you will see that in the previous video. These others built on the received text. Therefore, because they themselves believed that the received text was the true apostolic Bible, and further, because the Church of Rome arrogated to itself the power to choose a Bible which bore the marks of systematic depravation, we have the testimony of these 5 churches to the authenticity and apostolicity of the received text. The following quotation by Dr. Hort is to prove that the received text was the Greek New Testament of the East. Note that Dr. Hort always calls it the Constantinopolitan or Antiochian text. Now, one thing before we read that quote from Dr. Hort, when you have a church that is arrogating to itself, it is claiming the authority to choose the Bible which you read, what version of the Bible you will read. That in itself should raise red flags for anyone watching this presentation. No man has the right or the authority from God to tell you or me which Bible I am to study or read. And if you are telling me that you have the authority to choose my Bible for me, I know automatically that you are preaching a false religion and that your religious claims are false. Your claim to Christianity is false. Okay, so Dr. Hort says, it is no wonder that the traditional Constantinopolitan text, whether formally official or not, was the Antiochian text of the 4th century. It was equally natural that the text recognized by Constantinople should eventually become in practice the standard New Testament of the East. Okay, so early Syrian Christianity, which Bible? In other words, which Bible did the Syrian Christians use? It was at Antioch, capital of Syria, that the believers were first called Christians, and the Bible tells us that it was in Antioch, the capital of Syria, that the believers were first called Christians. And as time rolled on, the Syrian-speaking Christians could be numbered by the thousands. It is generally admitted that the Bible was translated from the original languages into Syrian about 150 A.D. This version is known as the Peshitta, the correct or simple, that is. This Bible, even today, generally follows the received text. Even today, the Peshitta, the Syrian Bible, which was translated into the original language of Syrian, into the original language in 150 AD, it generally follows the received text. Again, the received text being the ancestor of the King James Bible. One authority tells us that, quote, the Peshitta in our days is found in use amongst the Nestorians, who have always kept it, by the Monophysites on the plains of Syria, the Christians of St. Thomas in Malabar, and by the Maronites on the mountain terraces of Lebanon. Having presented the fact that the Bible, unquote. Having presented the fact that the Bible of early Greek Christianity and early Syrian Christianity was not of the Eusebio, Origen, or Vaticanus type, but the received text, we shall now show that the early Bible of northern Italy, of southern France, and of Great Britain was also the received text. The type of Christianity which first was favored, then raised to leadership by Constantine, was that of the Roman papacy. But this was not the type of Christianity that first penetrated Syria, northern Italy, southern France, and Great Britain. The ancient records of the first believers in Christ in those parts disclose a Christianity which is not Roman but apostolic. These lands were first penetrated by missionaries not from Rome, but from Palestine and Asia Minor. And the Greek New Testament, the received text they brought with them, or its translation, was the type from which the Protestant Bibles, as the King James in English and the Lutheran in German, were translated. We shall presently see that it differed greatly from the Eusebio, Origen Greek New Testament. Okay, we will stop our reading of this book for now. We will take this up in the next video, but I truly hope and pray that each one of our listeners will take these things to heart and not take the words of men just because they say a thing, or men that claim to be authorities in the Scriptures. Test the spirits, whether they are of God or not. If you agree with this presentation, then tap that like button so it can be sent out far and wide to those who are searching for the truth and hungering for the truth as for hidden treasure. And if you have any comments or questions, then by all means place them at the bottom of this video. And if you haven't subscribed, we would highly encourage you to do so if you appreciate this type of content. Thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth. We hope and pray that you will have a good day in the Lord.